You're listening to Sensitive Changemakers. This podcast is created for highly sensitive leaders and is designed to support you to embrace your strengths and gifts so you can feel more confident in your own mind and body and live a life with intention, purpose, and more importantly, joy. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP who has a BA Honours degree in education, is a fully trained and qualified professional coach and NLP practitioner, and has over 17 years of teaching and over 3 years of coaching experience supporting highly sensitive people. I believe that you can do anything you want to in this life, but that sometimes the path forward becomes muddy with self-doubt and fear of failure. It's my mission to help sensitive thought leaders peel away the self-doubt and stories holding them back, for them to see their own beauty and strength so they can increase self-confidence and self-trust through thought and embodiment work and see their path clearly and move forward confidently, living their life with intention and purpose. I would love for you to come and join us. Hello and welcome. I hope this episode finds you well and that you are having a fantastic start to the week or just generally a fantastic week. Things are going well here. We have just had half term, so the kids have been off and I have felt, touch wood, the best that I have felt in a long, long time. And so I actually felt that we made the most of it this half term. So we did lots of visits, went for lots of walks, went to Drayton Manor Park, which is like a theme park that's quite close to us. Just had some really good family times, and it felt really good to feel well enough and energized enough to be able to do that every day. So I am celebrating that. I hope you have had a wonderful week as well, as I said. So today what we are talking about is something that comes up for me quite a lot, and I'm smiling because I feel sometimes when I'm doing this podcast it comes across, so you might know what I mean here. And that is the differences in being highly sensitive, introverted, and also social awkwardness and or antisocial. Now I'm bringing antisocial up here because I'm not sure about you, but I know that in the past this has come up for me in different situations where maybe somebody who doesn't know me very well has said that I'm being antisocial because I find certain situations difficult or I find them overwhelming. Definitely in the past, I think I'm getting better in some regards, or my boundaries are just getting stronger as I get older. But I wanted to bring this to the table just in case that you have found something similar, that you have been caught antisocial in situations and you've kind of thought, am I? Do I just not like people? And I kind of want to, it is a serious conversation, but I am kind of bringing this table, hopefully with a bit of lightheartedness, so you can kind of see where you fit and hopefully take some things away, some food for thought, some ideas, some actions that you might want to take or just literally just ponder over. So first of all, I've got some definitions that have come through just so that you can see. So first of all, this term antisocial. It is often used to describe someone who avoids social interaction. I get that. However, in a clinical context, it refers to antisocial personality disorder, which is a mental health condition characterized by a pervasive pattern of disregard for the rights of others, deceitfulness, impulsivity, irritability, aggression, and or lack of remorse. Now, the first bit I can kind of relate to, describes someone who avoids social interaction. I do from time to time. I know I do. And I'm sure that you can relate to that as well. However, the second part of it, if you are somebody who relates to being highly sensitive or introverted, that part really doesn't fit in with the type of characteristics that we have, because highly sensitive people do have a lot of empathy. And so that second part really doesn't fit in with the definition of highly sensitive or introvertedness. And it does say a misconception here. It's important not to confuse antisocial behaviour with simply being shy, introverted, or socially awkward. And I think that's a really important point there. So I hope that helps in terms of, I know when I looked at that, I was like, oh no, I'm definitely not antisocial then, because that doesn't fit me at all. So a highly sensitive definition, let's look at this. And I know we've looked at this in previous episodes. But a highly sensitive person or is an individual who has an increased sensitivity to sensory input, emotional stimuli, and social interactions. It is a personality characteristic, not a disorder. Highly sensitive people may feel overwhelmed by loud noises, bright lights, strong smells, or chaotic environments. So that's the external stimuli. They are often very empathetic, conscientious, and prone to deep reflection. And that's that inner world that we talk so highly about. Highly sensitive people may avoid overly stimulating social situations, not because they dislike people, but because they can find such environments overwhelming, and they may need more downtime to recover from social interactions. Now, when I read that, I'm like, yes, I can relate to quite a lot of those, and I wonder if you can too. I'd be really interested to hear. And just to kind of add an extra layer onto that, I wanted to give you the definition of being introverted. So, introversion is a personality trait where individuals tend to feel more energized by solitary activities than by social interactions. It is one end of the introversion extroversion spectrum. And as I'm always talking about in these episodes, most things are a spectrum, aren't they? They are a scale. They're not a have or don't have. Everybody kind of fits somewhere on that scale. Introverts often prefer small gatherings, deep conversations, and spending time alone or with close circle of friends. They might feel drained after large social events. Introverts are not necessarily shy or socially anxious. They simply have a preference for quieter, less stimulating environments. They can enjoy social interactions, but typically prefer them in smaller doses. So there may be things in there that you can relate to as well. Now, on the front of introversion, for me personally, just to help hopefully to give it some insight so you can kind of pick it apart for yourselves. There are certain things here that do resonate with me. So I do like solitary activities. Um, I do like small gatherings. I prefer deep conversations, especially with people who have similar kind of ideas and thoughts so that we can really deep dive into certain topics. I love those. Um, and I do feel drained after large social events. So when there has been a lot going on and there's been a lot of people around, I do feel like I'm just really tired. Um, this last part about social interactions I find quite interesting personally for me, and I'd be interested to hear what you think as well. So introverts are not necessarily shy or socially anxious. They simply have a preference for quieter, less stimulating environments. They can enjoy social interactions, but typically prefer them in smaller doses. Now, this one here, I was always called shy as a kid. And I don't know about you, I always was. Um, I didn't want to talk too much with big groups. Um, and it wasn't really because I was anxious about it. It was just because I didn't know what to say and I didn't want to come across as silly or wrong or any of those things. And I do enjoy social interactions. And I think one of the difficulties I've had as I'm getting older, which was one of the reasons I wanted to bring this to the table, is as I'm getting older, I think what happens as you get older is you don't mind putting your foot down a little bit more. I'm not saying it's easy, but as you get older, I feel, and again, I'd love to hear your thoughts, that it's easier for me, or more simpler, should I say, for me to say, no, I don't want to do that. Whereas when I was younger, I would have tried to have done everything. Now, the downside of that for me is that I do like being around people, but I prefer being on my own more. And so I will default to doing things on my own, but actually, I am missing out on social situations and social interactions and mixing with people because I default to doing things on my own as I get older. And that is something I've become aware of over the last few years, possibly because of my health as well. It's just been not as possible to have as many social interactions as I used to have. And it's something that actually it's one of these situations where I want to honor my sensitivities and my introversion, but I also want to make sure that I am spending time with people, that I am having conversations, that I am meeting new people, that I am having those social experiences because they are really important for human beings generally. But I know also that I do enjoy them when I have them. And so I just want to kind of bring that to the table, just to put that to you. Is that something you're experiencing? Do you find, I think another kind of depth here, another layer is that as we get older, one of the other things that we can often find difficult is making new friends and making new connections. It is something that seems easier when we're younger and more difficult as we get older. And especially if we're highly sensitive and we crave those deep conversations, it could be really difficult to find somebody who you click with or who you can have those deep conversations with. Um, and so I kind of just wanted to add that as an extra kind of food for thought, should I say. And I think the other thing that really interests me as we're talking through this is the fact that you've got these different kind of traits. So you've got antisocial, which hopefully we've put that to kind of one side and seen that we may have been called that from time to time, but actually it's an inaccurate description for most of us listening to this. Most of us fit into the highly sensitive or introverted kind of umbrella, should I say. But one of the things that I think has a knock-on effect to those things is this, what I was talking about earlier, is this kind of default to spending time on our own because we know that social interactions drain us. And are we missing out there? Are we defaulting to doing things on our own all of the time? Should we make some time for social interactions? Again, no right or wrong, just food for thought there. And the other thing that comes up for me is, do we default to spending time on our own? Because actually, there's an element of social awkwardness. And I think for me personally, again, I'm talking from personal experience here, social awkwardness is something I can really relate to because I think because of when I was a kid and those highly sensitivities, or those sensitivities when I was a kid and that introversion that I had or that I felt, I felt very awkward in social situations. And I think it's because I could pick up on things that weren't being said. And it was I just felt very awkward in those situations, if that makes sense. So I kind of want to just talk that through it a little bit as well, and just to see if that relates to you. So we know that if we need time to reset, say you've had a busy weekend, now you're all you crave is quiet time, it's an indication you're highly sensitive, possibly introverted as well. Do you get shy around new people? You're not sure what to say. This is more likely to be social awkwardness. And a definition of social awkwardness refers to a feeling of discomfort or anxiety in social situations, often due to a lack of social skills or experience. People who are socially awkward may have difficulty reading social cues, understanding social norms, or knowing how to respond appropriately in conversations. Now, when I read that, I was like, that doesn't feel like me because, yes, discomfort, yeah, but have difficulty reading social cues. No, no. Understanding social norms. No, I get those. Knowing how to respond appropriately in conversations. Maybe, but it didn't feel like it encapsulated how I was feeling about being socially awkward. And then I looked at social awkwardness in highly sensitive people. And it says this can manifest in ways that are influenced by their heightened sensitivity to sensory and emotional stimuli. Highly sensitive people often experience social interactions more intensely, which can contribute to feelings of awkwardness in social settings. And when I read that, I was like, yes, that's more like how I feel. And I, again, just putting this to you, food for thought for you. Do you feel those things as well? Because I know that when I'm in a social situation, I do gain quite a lot from social interactions, but I do feel them quite intensely. And I do feel kind of awkward, especially if there's a pause or there's somebody that's not saying something. And in a close social gathering, so if I was with family or friends that I know really, really well, that wouldn't bother me at all. But if it's a new friendship group or it's people that I'm not aware of, that silence or that kind of awkwardness when nobody's talking, it really kind of bothers me and makes me feel like, oh, maybe I should say something. And I remember when I was a kid, when I was growing up, if this happened with friends that I kind of knew but didn't know very well, I would just start talking just to fill in the gaps. And I remember one of my friends saying to me at times, she went, Kate, you don't need to fill the gaps. You don't need to talk to fill the gaps. And that stays with me because that's exactly what I used to do when I was a kid. So if there was anything, any kind of gaps or pauses, and it just felt a little bit awkward for me as a sensitive person, I would just fill it in. Let's just talk about absolute nonsense. And that is what I used to do. Also used to get the label of kind of Kate's just being a bit weird. because I didn't know what to say, and I'm not very good at small talk. And so if there was a gap, I would just talk random rubbish. I wrote about this in a post this week. If anybody does remember the Friends episode where Ross tries to flirt and he ends up, this is Friends, by the way, he ends up just talking to a lady about gas, and then she leaves. And he went, was I talking about gas? And they say, more or less, more than anything else, or something to those words. That is what I end up doing. Just something pops into my head and it comes out of my mouth, in those situations. And so that felt like it really encapsulated how I feel in social situations more. And going back to what I was talking about earlier, that is one of the reasons as I'm getting older, I default, and I think probably COVID and lockdown had a lot to do with this as well, but I default more to spending time on my own than putting myself through that. Whereas in effect, or what I'm finding, get my words out, what I'm finding is actually now that I'm feeling more energized and well, I actually do enjoy those social interactions and I do gain quite a lot from those. And it's important for me at this point of my life to not default too much to time on my own because I am missing out on those social experiences. So, um, to support you in thinking about what next steps for you are or where you sit in this kind of scale, I've got some ideas here of characteristics of social awkwardness in highly sensitive people. So you've got overstimulation, which is a big one. So if you're in a social situation where you can become easily overwhelmed by busy or noisy environments, this can lead to feelings of discomfort and awkwardness. And we know this. And it might cause you to kind of withdraw or act in ways that seem awkward to others, in my experience. Um, that is when I just talk for talking's sake. We've also got heightened emotional responses. So we've got deep emotional processing as a highly sensitive person, and we might react more strongly to social cues, such as criticism or conflict. And if you have listened to my podcast recently, you know that criticism and conflict, I think, are huge for highly sensitive people. We do really kind of take those down deep rather than it just being surface. Oh, okay, they think that. That's okay. It's very much like we embrace that criticism and it becomes almost like embedded in us. We can't, it's very difficult for kind of to let that go and kind of just waters off a duck's back, so to speak. So, criticism or conflict, especially in a social situation, can lead to distress, overreaction, and we can be perceived as being socially awkward. I know that has definitely happened to me more than once. We've got sensitivity to social cues. So this, I think, is really important because we're attuned to our emotions and the needs of others. This can also, it's a wonderful, wonderful gift, I think, but it can also, there's always a flip side, can also be something that backfires because we may overanalyze those social interactions or worry excessively about how they are perceived, leading it to kind of hesitate or to feel awkward. This can also be closely linked to social anxiety because there is a bit of an overlap here where we overanalyze everything we've said. We worry about how we came across. We worry about how people thought about us or how we were perceived. And that can then lead, if you leave that unchecked, that can then lead to social anxiety. You've got depth of processing. So we really do think deeply about our interactions, which can slow our responses and make us appear like we're hesitant or uncertain, whereas actually we're just thinking things through. And again, that might look a little bit like being socially awkward and need for recovery time. So after being in a social interaction, we need more time to decompress and recharge. Um, and this I think is a really important part. This is one of the areas where I think the boundary setting as I get older is getting better because I know now if I'm really busy and I do have quite a lot of things booked, I also do need to put some time down in my diary for rest. Whereas I wouldn't have thought that that would have been important when I was younger. It was like, that is just me being weak or pathetic or come on, everybody else does things and then gets up the next day and does something else. And that's okay. That's absolutely fine. But it's not a weakness and it's not being pathetic if you do need to actually plan in that time to just go and spend some time on your own. And it's become kind of a norm in the house. My husband's really understanding, and I think even him to a degree, he does need that downtime as well. I know my kids do. And so if we have had a busy couple of days, we do say today's just gonna be a quiet time at home. Don't worry about it. You can go read, go and play, whatever you need to do just to kind of decompress in your own time. And it's not unusual for us in this house to all be in different rooms for a little bit. Again, that might just be because it's me and my husband's house, and we're the ones that kind of set the norm, if you like, and we're very much like that anyway. And so we're bringing our kids up like that. There's, nurture versus nature. But it's not unusual for us to kind of spend some time on our own. And then we always come back for like, watch a movie together or have dinner together or something like that. Okay. So the last thing I really kind of want to bring to your awareness, if you like, is what you can do if you're feeling in a bit of a pickle, for a better word. If you feel like you're at the stage of your life where you know that you're highly sensitive, you know that you're introverted, but at the same time, you know that you enjoy certain social situations, but you're defaulting, a bit like me, you're defaulting maybe more to spending time on your own because it's the easier decision to make. What can we do? Because, like I said, I think belonging, connection, there's a lot to be said. I'm planning my Release and Rise anxiety course at the moment. I'm re-looking over my notes. Um, and vagus nerve, the ventral vagus, when they talk about that, that is very much, it's part of the parasympathetic nervous system, but it's very much about connection, belonging, social interaction. It is a really important part of feeling grounded and safe. And I think if we ignore that, we're doing ourselves a huge disservice, especially because we're highly sensitive and introverted. So, what can you do if you are feeling like you're defaulting to spending time on your own? So, first of all, like I was saying before, really make sure you do plan in your own downtime rather than just assuming that you can cope with it all, or that you can go over here on Monday and you can do that on Tuesday and you can go and see so and so on Wednesday. Rather than just thinking you can do it all, actually planning in your downtime and going, right, okay, I'm going to go and see so and so on Monday. So on Tuesday, I'm going to have a bit of a quieter day. On Wednesday, I'm going to go and see so and so. So on Thursday, I'm going to have a quieter day, or whatever works for you. But actually, really do planning in that downtime and knowing that's what you need in order to kind of appreciate everything in your life, both the quieter times and the more social interactions and just that social experience. That can really support you. The other thing that can really help, um, that just generally everybody could do more time with, I think, is mindfulness. And I know I speak about this a lot. I really do think it helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. I think it really supports you to balance, to take a deeper breath, to take that metaphorical step back from situations, to be able to see things for what they are, to be able to feel safer in social interactions. It's just kind of practicing that mindfulness. And that looks different for every person. It might be some meditation. It might be some deep breathing activities or breath work. It might be just going out for a walk in nature, whatever helps you to kind of regulate and balance yourself. And the other thing, there's a couple more things I just want to say. I think the next thing is gradual exposure rather than an all or nothing, which we can tend to do. There's no sort of nothing wrong with that. I think we all kind of default sometimes to thinking that if we're not doing anything, we have to do it all. And I think what I'm really inviting you here is to how can you just take a baby step? Like, how can you take a baby step into increasing exposure to social situations? So you're kind of building up that resilience and that confidence that you know that you're going to gain something from that social interaction. And by being around it more or by being in those experiences more, you're going to not only feel more confident, you're going to feel more resilient, but you're going to get something out of those as well. And hopefully give something back, give something back to people who come away and think, wow, it's lovely to spend some time with, Kate this weekend, or just so that you can see it from both sides. So how can you take a baby step into increasing exposure to social situations? And that might be that you just you get in touch with somebody that you really enjoy spending some time with that you haven't spoken to in a long time and saying to them, do you fancy getting together? It might be for a lot of people, I think one of the baby steps you can take is doing something virtual rather than doing something in person to start off with and then building up to in person, depending on where you are in your journey. And then the last one, always so important, is seeking support. Talking with friends or therapists or coaches about your experiences can really just shine a light on something that maybe you didn't see before. And it can really help with feeling more reassured in social situations. It can help you to feel more balanced, and see the benefits of being in them. So I hope that that helps. And I think really just understanding you and what works for you. I've spoken quite a lot about myself today because I'm hoping, well, it's just me here right now, but I'm hoping that by doing that, it helps you to think about yourself in your own life and what's going on for you and what you find uniquely challenging for you, and how you can face social situations and how you can help to develop strategies to navigate situations more comfortably and really kind of embrace those social experiences so that you can not only give something back but get something from them too. So I hope that helps. I would love to hear your take on this. I would love to hear how you find that balance of being highly sensitive and introverted and also that social interaction. Please do let me know. I am going to be releasing something. I'm working on it at the moment and I'm purposely taking my time, because in the past I would have rushed through it. I would have just to get it out there. I know that that's exactly what I would have done. This time I'm taking my time. It's going to be Release and Rise. I spoke about it earlier. Release and Rise is something I trademarked actually back in 2019, I think. And I created a course on it back then. And it never went anywhere. I was right at the start of my business. And it just didn't happen, didn't go anywhere. I spent so much time putting energy and work into it. I've still got all the videos and things I created. But what I've done is I'm in my 5th year of business now. I've looked at everything that I've learned over the last 5-6 years, and I've kind of just brought everything together. And it really is a course that talks you through all of the understanding behind anxiety and overwhelm. It brings in highly sensitive, it brings in introverts, but it also helps you to shift, to really embrace your gifts and your strengths, to see and appreciate who you are on a deeper level than you currently probably do, so that you can really go for what you want and feel confident and resilient in doing that. And so I'm going to be working on that in the background. I'm hoping to release it in autumn. And I will be looking for some beta testers just to kind of test it out, because I don't like put anything out there at full cost without actually having trialed it with people to get some feedback, to tweak it, etc. So I will be looking for some beta testers in probably the back end of summer, autumn. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please do get in touch, email me, Instagram me, Facebook me, and just say that it's something you're interested in. I'll let you know at the end of summer what they'll be like. There will be a cost involved, but it won't be a huge cost because obviously, like I said, it will be a beta round just to kind of get some ideas on what works, what needs tweaking, etc. So that's all from me. Do let me know if you're interested, and I will be back next week with another episode. Sending you so much love. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.